Automation Framework Part 2 Custom Exceptions. In Part 1, we have created an automation framework project and we have implemented a folder structure for that particular project as well. If you want to learn more about exceptions and custom exceptions, then you can go to C# tutorial part 24 for exceptions and C# tutorial part 25 for a custom exceptions, and you will learn more about these custom exceptions and exceptions in a great detail. So in this session, we are going to implement a custom exceptions in the automation framework. So let me start this session. When we guys are talking about custom exceptions, the first question comes in our mind: what is exception and why do we need a custom exception? Take an example of when you are trying to access a one particular file while executing the automation framework, and that file does not exist in the provided path. Accidentally somebody removed the file or accidentally somebody changed the name of that particular file, but while executing your automation framework will try to access that particular file. If they're not able to find that particular file in the provided path, then the abnormal condition occurs. This abnormal condition, we handle it with the help of the exception mechanism. Now the question comes up: we have already a mechanism in place which is provided by the C#, which is provided by the .NET technology to handle abnormal conditions. Why do we need a custom exceptions? When we talk about the exceptions, exception provides a common message, and sometimes it provides a more detailed information which is not relevant for the end user point of view. To provide a more relevant information to the end user, we use a custom exception. So that is the reason behind it. We always implement custom exceptions in application programs, and whenever we create any framework with respect to the automation or any type of the application we created, we always create our own custom exceptions. With the help of these custom exceptions, we can provide a more meaningful information to the user and user able to understand those information. That is the reason behind it. We are using a custom exceptions. If you talk about the custom exceptions in our automation framework, we are going to create a one folder that is a custom exceptions, and inside the custom exceptions we are going to create another class that is going to be the automation exceptions, and we are also going to create a enums error items.js file. So let me go to automation framework in Visual Studio to implement this custom exceptions. Before implementing a custom exceptions in our automation framework, let me have an overview of a part 1, what we did it in a part 1 of this automation framework sessions. The part 1, we have created a two projects, core.webui project and there is an automation runner project. This automation runner project, we are going to use it to write and execute the test cases. And if we talk about this core.webui project, we are going to write all the code here in this core.webui project, and we are going to create a package of this core.webui project and add it to here automation runner project, or you can say we are going to add the reference of this project here in the automation runner project, and then we can use all the methods and step definitions which we are going to write it here in the core.webui project in this automation runner project. Okay, we have also downloaded a one NuGet package. That package is a specflow.NUnit package. So we are going to use this test provider. This is a test provider, NUnit test provider. We want to execute the test cases. We are going to use this specflow.NUnit test provider. With the help of this NUnit test provider, we can execute the test cases, and if we see, this NUnit is having NUnit specflow and specflow tool ms build generation. So these are the different packages are also going to download along with this specflow.NUnit package. If you talk about the dependencies here in automation runner, we have also downloaded a similar package here, specflow.NUnit. We have also added a folder structure in this automation runner. One is a dataset, resources, results, and test cases. Whenever you are going to write or execute the test cases, you are going to place all the feature files, all the test cases inside this test cases folder. Result folder will have the results of the executed test cases. We are going to have the extend report, and we are also going to have the logs. Logs are providing a more detailed information. And if we talk about the resources folder, this resources folder is having the information related to a different configuration for the automation environment. Take an example of this. So this framework setting.json file is going to have the information related to on which browser you want to execute the test cases. What is the browser version? Do you want to take a screenshot of every step or not. So these are the different configuration we have provided it here in the framework setting.json file, and we have also added an application region.json file. This application region.json file is going to have the information related to a different application environment, like URL, the username and the password. So this application region.json file can have the information of the multiple environments. Okay, let's go and implement a custom exception. As we are aware of, we are going to use this code.webui to have the code. So in this code.webui, we are going to implement a custom exception. To have the custom exception, first we can create a, okay, we can have a folder. Here we can give a custom exception, and in this custom exception, we are going to create a class, add class, provide a name as automation exception. Make this class as a public and inherit this automation class from an exception class. So we have created a one custom exception folder, and inside the custom exception folder we have created a one class, that is automation exception class, and we have marked this automation exception class as a public, and we have inherited this automation exception class from an exception class. This exception class is the main class and which is present inside the system. So whenever you want to create any exception class, then you have to inherit this exception class. So all exception class, those are default provided by the .NET Technologies and the C# programming language. Those are inherited directly or indirectly from this exception class. Take an example of, we have a one file not found exception, alt enter to import a system.io. So this file not found is another exception which is provided by the .NET Technologies and which is present inside the system.io. So this file not found, if we go inside this, we can see this file not found from the IO exception class, and if we go inside this IO exception class, we can see this IO exception class inherited from the system exception class, and if we go inside the system exception class, we can see this system exception class inherited from the exception class. So directly or indirectly, all the exceptions those exist here in this .NET technology, though provided by the C# programming language, directly or indirectly inherited from the exception class. So this exception class is having few methods and properties. We can see here are the few constructors, we have a few properties and methods. So we can use these properties and methods which are provided by the exception class in the inherited or in the derived class. So that is the reason behind it. We have inherited this automation exception class, which we want to make as a custom exception class for our automation framework from the exception class. Now the question comes up, what is the use of this automation exception class? Main use of this automation exception class to display the message. So whenever the automation framework is going to use this automation exception class, which we are treating as a custom exception class, they need to provide a good enough information or a meaningful information to the user. And how can we get this meaningful information? Whenever we are going to use this automation exception class in our automation framework, we will be sending the message to this automation exception class, and that message will be displayed to the user. Now the question comes up, when we are saying we are having this automation exception class, we want to send the information. First, we need to create the object of that particular automation exception class. So whenever we create the object of this automation exception class, that information will be passed as a constructor to this automation exception class. So let's go and declare a constructor here, public automation exception, and accept a string, a parameter. You can give the name as a message. So we have created a one constructor automation exception, and this is taking a one parameter of a string type. Whenever the user is creating the object of this automation exception class, then this constructor will be called whenever we are passing any string or any message. Now we need to display this message to the user. One way is to write a code here in the automation exception class. Another is we already have a constructor in the exception class, that is exception. It is having a one parameter of a string type. Here we can pass that message which we are getting it here from the user side, and then that message will be displayed with the help of this exception class. So don't need to write any code in the automation exception class. we only need to send the message to the parent class, this exception class. And how can we send this message to this exception class? By using a base keyword. Base represent to the parent class, and in the base we can see we have a different constructor exist for this exception class, which is one parameterless constructor, another is having a one parameter. So this we are going to use it, and we can pass this message which we have got it from the user side, from the automation framework side, and this message which we have passed it will be displayed with the help of this exception class. Here we need to add a dollar sign to format it, and then double quotation marks place inside a message, and then we need to use a curly brackets, and here it is. So the value of this message will be replaced or will be edited here with the help of this curly brackets. Okay, so here we have added a constructor, and this constructor is taking a one message that is a detailed message. So whatever the user want to pass it, they can pass it. Sometimes it happens you don't want to send a detailed message. You want to send only a one word message. So that word will be good enough for any of the end user to understand it. For that, what we guys can do is we can create another enum here under this custom exceptions. Take an example of say error items, and this error item changed to enum. Now, so this error item is of a enum type, and here in this enum, here in this error items, we can provide a one word message so that our automation framework can use it. Just to speed up the process, I have already added the items here. Let's copy and paste it here. Now we can see these are the one word items, the error items. First is the invalid DB credentials. So this item is saying if your DB credentials, if your database credentials are wrong, then you can use this invalid DB credential word and you can pass it in the error message, and that will be displayed to the user, and user can easily understand, okay, this is the invalid DB credential and it means the database credentials which we are providing it is wrong. Another is invalid report config file, invalid feature files, invalid parameter exceptions. So if you have provided a parameters and those parameters are not correct, then you can use this invalid parameter exception. So with the help of this one word information, that information is going to provide all information to the user. So instead of using a detailed information like we are using it here in this automation exception constructor, we are providing a detailed information. And if you want to provide only a one word information, then you can create another constructor. This time this is going to accept the error items, and here it is the items, and then you can replace this message with items as well. We are getting a syntax error, and error items is less accessible than the method. It means we need to make this enum as a public. So let's commit here. Now we can see we are not getting any error. So what we did it here, so we have created another constructor. This time is of an error item. So whenever the automation framework wants to provide a one word information to the user, then they can use this error item constructor and provide the information, and it will be good enough information for the user as well. So now the question comes up, we have a detailed message information as well as we have the one word information which we are providing it to the user. It's a complete possibility. We want to provide both the things together. We want to provide a message, a complete or detailed information, as well as we want to provide a one word message as well. For that, what we guys can do is we can create another constructor which is going to take two parameters. One is the string and another is of error items. Now we can pass both the information to this exception class and to display it. What we guys can do is we can replace it here with the message. That's it. So now we are passing items, the enum item, a single one word values as well as the detailed information to the user, so that user able to understand. So we have three constructors in this automation exception. One is taking a detailed message, one is having a single one word information which we are passing it to the user. Another facility which we have provided in the custom exception class, this is the error items, one word, a single word information, as well as along with this one word we can provide a message, a detailed information, and then we are using a base class constructor to display the message. Now we can say automation exception class, or you can say the custom exception class is ready with us whenever we want to provide information in the form of message, or whenever we want to provide information to the user, or whenever we want to handle exceptions. So instead of using this exception class, we can use this customize exception class, and with the help of these constructors we can provide the information to the user. To achieve a custom exceptions, we have created a custom exception folder, and inside the custom exception folder we have created this automation exception class, and we have created a error items. It's of a enum type, and this enum, this error item, is going to hold a one line information if the user wants to, or you can say if in the automation framework we want to use this facility where a one word is good enough information for the user, okay, then we can use this error items which is of an enum type. If you want to learn a professional automation framework with C#, SpecFlow, Selenium with different design patterns, please join the course on Udemy. You can download a full automation framework code as well. You can find a course link below in the description tab. Please subscribe this channel to learn automation testing concepts.